Hello, everybody on YouTube. Welcome to Sunday Satsang. So, the title today is called The Choice That Changes Everything. Become Your Real Self. I put you real self, but your real self. Yeah. So, for those that are new here, I just say that I'm just waiting for words to come, or there is a waiting. It's not even a waiting, it's like life will, at exactly the right time, speak this body. Yeah. So, one thing that we've been told about life is that we are the doers, that there is a person inside this body mind mechanism that is the doer of life. And to most people in our society, that doer is a person that was born into a certain family, a certain country, that made certain choices in their life, went to school, studied at university, decided to get married, to live in a certain place. There's a certain colour, certain height, certain behaviours, their likes, their dislikes, their illnesses, their wealth, their health. And that somebody is sitting here listening to me. And that person has been making choice through time. And that one's choice, that illusory or that person's choice, have led them to this moment, and their happiness was dependent on what choices they made. Whether they turned right or left, whether they became a lawyer or a dustman, dustwoman, dust person. Someone that collects the trash, the rubbish. And the happiness is dependent on choices, and if you're not happy, it's because you at some point have made the wrong choice and it's your fault. You went the wrong way, the wrong direction, you didn't earn enough money, you earned too much money, you didn't act from your heart, you acted too much from your heart, you were too irresponsible, you were too careful, you should have had children, you shouldn't have had children, you should have divorced your partner, you shouldn't have divorced your partner, you should have married your first love, you should have gone to India, you should have followed the teachings of non-duality from the age of 5 years old. All these different things that you should and shouldn't be. And most people spend most of their time in the thoughts about themselves and why their life is as it is and what they need to do to fix it. Whereas when you come to non-duality, the way it's taught and the way that it can be seen is there is nobody doing or choosing your life. In fact, there isn't somebody with a life. You and all the mistakes and you've made and all the things you've done right is a dream, a daydream that you're constantly replaying. And it's not true in any way, it's not a truth. And one of your biggest illusions is that you choose and that you choose your life. And you've made mistakes or not made mistakes. This is not true in the slightest. There isn't somebody choosing. There isn't a choice maker. There is only the ever-present now, what is that's happening. And that what is free. That what is unbound, unlimited, not defined by anything, and simultaneously all things. So the idea that there is a you that can make a choice that changes everything is an untrue thing in time. It's not a true idea that there is a you in time that can make a choice. Who is this you in time? Who are you? Who are you? There's an appearance of a character that interacts with the world, but it's only an appearance. And what I mean by appearance is, do you ever have the past? Do you ever have the future? Or are you ever present now? We take this as like a reality that being ever present now is like, well, that's the way it always is, so it's nothing special. But just look how you're only ever here, you're only ever now, you never move from here. The scenery changes, the thoughts change, the ideas change, but you do not change. The now does not change, this moment does not change. Pure consciousness does not change. A lot of non-dual teachers describe it like a screen that a film is played on. The screen never moves. And there is a film of you being played. And waking up is the realization of that what you are is prior to the body-mind, prior to the thoughts, prior to the feelings, prior to anything in this world. And equally, it's all of those things, but not one particular thing. Some teachers call it consciousness, but this word is very confusing because we have two seeming things which are consciousness. We have this personal awareness or personal consciousness, and then we have something that is prior to that. And that which is prior to the personal consciousness is undivided. A lot of people wake up to the personal consciousness and think that's the big consciousness. And this big consciousness is all things and no things. It's perfectly still and it's all that's moving now. To recognize this, you have to give up the attachment to the timeline. But in the timeline, there's all the things you want, you like, and believe are your happiness. Like your animals, your friends, your house, your money, your security. Everyone believes it's in time. To remember thyself, you have to give up the attachment to that. The seeking, the belief that those give you happiness. It doesn't mean you have to give them up or throw them away. It's this attachment that believes that they belong to you, that they're yours. And that's to be a resting in what you are, a coming back to what you are. So the choice that changes everything is not a personal choice. It's not a choice that you make. It's not a choice that you do because there is no you. You is a dream. But there's appearances of choice, and the choice that changes everything is the choice that appears, which is impersonal. It doesn't belong to an illusory you. It's an energy which is attached to that seeming body, and that choice is absolute commitment to this subject. That this subject is the most important thing in their life, and that this is all you ever wanted. And that is a choiceless choice. You don't make that. You can't make yourself totally committed and desire only this. In so many teachers, this is spoken about, that the most important part is the desire for freedom. And so the choice that arises to be totally committed to this is absolutely impersonal, but it's the most important thing. And so the next bit is become your true self. And once there is absolute commitment to this subject, then naturally the flow of life will appear in a way which will take you home. Because all of this is your dream. So whatever it is that you're dreaming, that you want, is what's going to appear. So if you're dreaming that you want to go home, then that is what's going to appear. And everything that appears in life is going to be there to challenge what is not true and to show you what is true. It's going to be the perfect, seeming external netty, not this, not that. Not this, not that. For that choice to arise, to be absolutely committed to this, or that desire to arise, to be absolutely committed to this, it has to be the absolute clarity that nothing in life is going to give you what you want. The safety and freedom of who you are. Nothing in life is going to give you that. No pleasure is going to give it, no pain is going to take it away. No house, no circumstance, no health of the body, no pain of the body, no grief, no people dying around you. This is not the freedom. It's got to be seen so clearly. This isn't the freedom and the taking away of freedom. That pleasure and pain aren't what you're truly looking for. That you're looking for a love and a peace which is beyond that. Then what begins to happen is as it begins to be that action, word, speaking, hearing, seeing, doing is not coming from the person, but is coming from the divine, is coming from love. So it's not coming through a mental construct of what you should be or what you need to be, but coming from what you are as this. It's so interesting. There's this family blog that I've watched on and off for years, and it's really interesting watching the children grow up and create their egos. And it's like, as you watch them through the years, they create more and more of a character. They put on a performance more and more. And I just know what that leads to. It just leads to less and less wanting to be around other people because it's hard work to play that character. Less and less of internal conflict because you can't live up to the character. It's a way of being. Like maybe you want to be the good girl or the bad girl or the right girl or successful woman, like whatever it is, or the badass, compassionate. There isn't an ability to live up to that because we are multi-dimensional. And when we're truly ourselves, we're becoming all different people dependent who we're interacting with, what environment we're in, what people we're interacting with. The idea that there is this solid self is a fake one. If you're with somebody that's deeply suffering, you're going to be completely different from if you're with someone that's really happy, if you're with someone that's lying and cheating. So what we begin to do in order to maintain these characters that we want to be, that we're trying to be, we fall asleep more and more. We go into like a disassociation, daydreaming that we're something over other. So we are acting badly but daydreaming being good. We're furiously full of rage but acting as if we're innocent and childlike. We're full of grief. I say we because I don't want to be like you. So we're full of grief, and we act as if life is a joke or a laugh. All these layers that we put on, and we even forget that we're acting. So we start doing really disconnected things, and in order to maintain the dream, we have to like really ignore what the body's saying. Body's burning in rage, but we don't want to hear that. We want to be the good person. So we're like, ignore, don't listen. And so what happens is this disassociation, and more emotions, anger, fury, sadness, guilt gets suppressed in the body, and it becomes tighter and tighter. So now to the point when I was living in Australia, the number one drug I think it was antidepressants for backache. Why do you think antidepressants work for backache? Because the backache is because you're so stressed. So as you become less stressed, the back begins to relax. And the reason you're so stressed is you're trying so hard to be this perfect person, or this person that you imagine to be yourself to be. So much work all the time trying to be this person, rather than authentically acting like a child. You know, prior to growing that ego, there's this authenticity. Okay. So the choice that changes everything, become your true self. The choice that changes everything is the absolute commitment to this subject. And through that, God will be being brought close. Like, so whatever you desire, whatever you fixate on, God will become close to you. And then become your true self. The more and more that you move closer to God, the more and more you'll know yourself. Not as a person, but as that which you were before you were born and will be after you die. Okay, but I open it up for questions. So this is like the nature of the way that satsang often goes, is that there's the introduction and then question and answer. And basically what it's meant to be is a resonance of the energy of meeting in truth. That's what satsang means. So everyone begins to resonate in the energy of freedom. It's like a ping pong effect. The teacher starts off setting the energy, and then it begins to affect others, and as it affects others, it affects more. And ultimately, it's all your own self. I am yourself, the other is yourself, the computer is yourself, but not yourself as who you dream yourself to be. Okay. So, Do we have any questions? Yeah, Sam, you can unmute yourself. Hey, Sam. Yeah, that's quite a lot for me to reply to all at once. Yeah, that's okay. But it's just a bit. I don't know where I'd even begin to start now because there's lots of things being said. What would you like? What would you like me to particularly comment on? Mm. Yeah, yeah. And then it knocks your sobriety. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. I can see you've got more questions, but maybe if we just do one after the other, because it's always a lot of information for all in one go. That's okay. You've got nothing to apologize for. How does it feel to sit in silence? Mm. 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 Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, just yeah. Um, but yeah, maybe that's enough now. It's. I think a lot of speaking energy is coming up from you. Maybe we just sit in a silence for a moment. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, but there's something that just happened that you couldn't hear that's making me chuckle a little. In my house, not in the computer or anything. Oh, yes? Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, sorry everyone. I just realised that no one can hear Sam. Now everyone should be able to hear Sam.
Oh, that's a good thing. Thank God.
Yeah, no, that was just silence for everyone. And then the funny thing is then I'm replying to you like, yeah, should we just be silent for a bit?
Oh no, but Debbie Miller sent me a message, so I think she can hear. Thank you for that message. That's a good one.
No, just in Zoom they can hear you, but not on YouTube.
Okay.
I think. Let me just try. Just speak. If could you just speak a second, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hmm.
So just notice how that feels to sit in silence and all the attention is on you and me. Well, not all the attention, but in the Zoom meeting, there's like attention on you and attention on me. Just notice that. What it feels like in the body, like what's happening in the body. And how often there's not wanting to be in the body because there's pain in the body or uncomfortable feelings or uncomfortable emotions. There's not wanting to stay in that. It can be a sense of feeling on fire, like you're trying to scramble out of this moment. Just notice. And then often that's when addiction happens, is there's something that arises in the body and there can't be a holding of it, like you talked about with trauma. For those on YouTube that didn't hear it, Sam was speaking about like not being able to hold trauma, it being too big and then going back to addictive patterns. So just noticing like these feelings come up and then we can't stay with what's happening, so we black out. There is blacking out that happens. And you could call it like a falling asleep. And then we begin to pay attention not to the body, not to what's actually happening, the feeling of the bum on the seat or the breeze in the air. But what we do is we pay attention to what we're thinking. And the problem with paying attention too much to thought is a problem-solving dynamic that is looking at life and looking how to improve your environment. So when we focus in too much on thought, it starts telling us of all the problems and all the things that could potentially happen. And it also wants to grow this ego because it feels like if it grows an ego, it will be safe. That's what the mind does. The personal consciousness focuses on the thoughts because it can't bear feeling the physical sensations of what's happening. And it can't bear ultimately when it's really sunk into the physical sensations of what's happening, there isn't somebody experiencing it. There is only what is. There is big consciousness experiencing itself. This beingness experiencing itself through these apparent forms, but there's nobody actually experiencing. And that is unbearable to the person, the one that the personal consciousness is focusing on, the one that goes through time. It really wants to exist as someone. To not exist as someone, that feels very scary. So we have to black out, we have to start dreaming, but the dream isn't very good. The dream oscillates between pleasure and pain. It's unpredictable. And then the mind gets into this idea, okay, so now I've got to choose to be present all the time. I've got to try and battle the focusing on the story of me. I've got to try and stay present to the body and to what's actually happening, to the feelings, the sensations, the pain in the back. And then that mind battles with itself. But actually, the freedom is the resting in this big consciousness. This is coming to what your actual question was, Sam. And the resting in this big consciousness is not actually an action of the mind. It's not actually an action of the person. The person can rest itself in the small consciousness, in the personal consciousness. So the person, so that thought stream, not that thought stream, but what can happen is there can be a movement from being lost in thought to bringing the attention back to here. And when you do that, you're bringing it back to the sense of I am, or you're bringing it back to the personal consciousness. But that's all the movement being experienced by somebody, by something else. So that isn't the experiencer, that movement, so the one moving its attention back to the personal consciousness, moving its attention back to presence. That is being experienced, and the reason that we know that is because you know it. You have the ability to perceive it, and you can cognitively realize that that is happening. So there must be something prior to it. What is it that knows that's happening? That is inside the dream because you can see it. The movement of attention is in the dream because you can see it. You can see yourself moving the attention from the wall to your knee, to the computer, to me. You can see that movement. And what is seeing that? Who is seeing that? And then you notice that when the attention is moving, there is this big consciousness in which that is appearing in. So you're focusing on me, but all around you, the big consciousness is aware of the space, the room, your dog or cat, whatever animal you have near you, the sofa, what's behind your computer. That is the big consciousness. Your personal consciousness is focused on me. Your personal consciousness, you can move around the room. But simultaneously, there is this broad consciousness, which Roger calls awareness and Nisargadatta calls awareness, this broad awareness that's here all the time. And you cannot think about it, so in one way it becomes invisible. It's no thing, but yet it's all things. But it's unnameable. It is the computer, it is the sounds, it is the chair, it is the colours, it is the room, it is the space. It is all of that right now.
That makes sense. So I can keep the concept of formless awareness or empty looking and the beingness and the I am. But
Yeah,
personal consciousness can be a kind of a third thing, which is me able to move the personal consciousness around. So I guess personal consciousness is something that even people who've never dug into this subject, they would be moving their person, that's something they'd be aware of as well, the personal consciousness.
and it's a really important stage to become aware of personal consciousness. So what happens in the beginning, which I know has already happened to you, is the mind turns and looks around at personal consciousness. And you recognize that personal consciousness is prior to the mind and thoughts. But personal consciousness is still an abstraction of the mind, and there is something prior to personal consciousness. And that's normally what Nisargadatta calls awareness, but I just call it big consciousness. Like, it's just a different language. So you could call personal consciousness like a gateless gateway to the big consciousness. There is abstraction of mind there, but it's conscious. It's conscious, it's got consciousness in it, but it's seemingly limited. It's seemingly focused and something that can move. And it's moving in this big consciousness.
Sorry, when you say like waking up to the personal consciousness, isn't personal consciousness, I must be not understanding, but wouldn't that just be like saying to anyone on the street, feel your toes, be aware of your toes, now be aware of your back of your head?
Yeah.
And so that's all you mean when you say waking up to personal
Person-
consciousness.
But actually, what happens for most people when they start off, and maybe you've forgotten this because you've been into it for so many years, but most people, the personal consciousness and the thoughts and the feelings are one and the same thing. So they believe that they are becoming aware of their toes, that they are becoming aware of their nose. But actually, the they is appearing in personal consciousness. Personal consciousness is watching the they. The personal consciousness is prior to thoughts, to feelings, to ideas. But then it goes even further back after personal consciousness. Like your movement of attention is prior to your thoughts. It's prior even to the chooser. The one that says, I am moving my personal consciousness comes after the movement of personal consciousness. It's actually God moving personal consciousness. So when you say that to them in the street, they will put their attention on their feet, but they believe it's them putting their attention on their feet. And they believe they are a story in time. Whereas the personal consciousness can move without any story.
Okay.
You don't always need to be telling your personal consciousness, put it on the TV or put it on the fridge or put it on the phone. It goes there, like the phone rings and it goes there. There's not anyone moving that in that moment. But the mind comes in afterwards and says, I heard the phone ringing. I moved my attention.
Yeah. So if you're resting in what you'd call big consciousness and the phone rang, you'd be aware of the personal consciousness moving towards the phone,
Mm.
whilst also being aware of. I guess you can't remain in the big consciousness all the time though, because you kind of would narrow into the phone call and concentrate on talking. You couldn't always be const
Actually, there can be this shift that happens where big consciousness becomes first, and it's known all the time, and then the personal consciousness is seen as a movement and appearance in that, and there's always the big consciousness everywhere, but there is this limitation that is moving, but there's a knowing, there's a separation. So it's, I think, what Nisargadatta might call witnessing. So there is the ability to witness the personal consciousness moving, or to not be involved in it, to see the movement of it, but not to believe that is who you are or to be sucked into it. I mean, right now there is the big consciousness. Your big consciousness is aware of me speaking, the birds outside, your dog breathing. That big consciousness is there and free, but the energy, the attachment is in the personal consciousness most of the time, so it's narrowed. But the big consciousness never leaves you. You can never do anything without that.
I think I'm used to the idea of witnessing. And I think I picked up maybe from Roger's teaching that you can be in a state of witnessing for long periods of time, but at some point it can be that witnessing is not a state that the human being will, or it's like there is always witnessing happening, I think he said, but it kind of falls to the background because there's then a return back into living as this, as the person. And so, although like Nisargadatta's book, I Am That, I think, didn't Ramesh say he wished he had called it I Am That, living as this? Because a lot of the time you are living as this with the knowledge that you are that. You're not always blissed out witnessing, removed twice from the situation. If you're playing football, I don't play football anymore, you'd be right into playing football, and that would be your whole experience would be of playing football. You wouldn't be twice removed, always witness, because you wouldn't be very good at football if you were in this state of blissed out wit. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think that there's different language and different ways of speaking about things. Um, there's different levels, seemingly, of witnessing. So there is the witnessing where you're actively witnessing, and then there comes witnessing where it's no longer an activity, it's just a natural way of being. The
Yeah.
witnessing happens and it's not somebody doing it. And then there comes a point where it's almost I mean, you could say that there's witnessing happening, but it's almost like witnessing disappears because there stops
Yeah,
being this removal and then there starts being an intimacy with everything. So it's like the beingness and or the I amness and the consciousness come together. You could say there
that's
is
it.
witnessing happening, but it's kind of not separate anymore in any way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to marry up both the teachings because I think, as people say, it can be confusing listening to different language and
Yeah,
different teachings.
yeah,
And I
totally.
know that it's probably the same thing being taught here. I'm just trying to get the
Yeah,
want.
for, it's such deeply influenced by Nisargadatta and Ramesh and Roger, so it's like so they're so connected, but everyone's going to find their own language for it.
Yeah. All right, thank. Just is it all right to just have one more part to the
Yeah,
question?
yeah,
Last part. This is a funny one, and I hope it's not a bad. If it's a question that's not great for your teaching and you don't maybe want to answer it, then please just say. But there's one concept and one thing, like videos I've heard Roger say that really stuck out to me because I've never clicked with this concept that I think I may have heard you say it, and I've definitely heard a lot of other teachers say. What you are was never born and will never die. They say it very explicitly. What you are was never born and will never die. And it sounded brilliant to me. Probably sounds amazing to everybody because nobody wants to die and they, you know. But I never, despite any experiences I've had, awakenings or whatever's samadhis, I don't know the right term. I've never had this. I've had glimpses of it and an intuition that maybe this thing has been eternal, but I've never had a clear, definite. It's never been like a clear, explicit thing that said, right, you were never born and you will never. That's never been clear to me. And I heard Roger say at least once in a video. He says he understands why teachers say that and it's a part of a certain teaching, but when resting in being and I am, he said it doesn't tell you that it was never born and it will never die. All it really tells you is that it is now and that that is enough. But although he says he can understand why teachers would say that, he says the experience didn't to him doesn't actually it's not definite that you were never born and that you will never die. And that was good for me to hear because I thought, oh well, I'm not missing something then. In a way, all it really tells you is that I am tells you I am now, and that that is enough. Does that make any sense to you?
yeah, totally.
Oh, cool, brilliant. It's all tied up nicely then. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well,
So
that's all the questions.
but hang on. So I just
Yeah,
have a bit more, but I'm just gonna stay
yeah.
silent for a
Sorry,
moment.
I'm
Yeah,
all jumped up.
yeah. So just something that not just you, Sam, but anyone can inquire into is what happens when you do not know. You know, what happens when there is confusion, when you can't understand something. So, say if someone rips you off, or someone leaves you, or someone doesn't answer your call, and you don't know what that means, what happens? It's just the inquiry for everyone. So, if that produces insecurity, then the mind will try to find security. If that doesn't produce anything, then that will just disappear, like everything else disappears. If it produces anger, then the mind will try to find blame or guilt or accusation or something, So what happens when we do not know? And does the big consciousness know anything? So what we are, as our true self, does it know anything? So there is a knowing of me, there is an understanding of what I say, and what is it that knows that? Who knows that? Who knows the knowing? What knows the knowing? Everything is an investigation. Everything is here to be looked at. So what is it in every moment that is experienced? And it's to try to be as honest with ourselves as we can be about what the experience is and what's happening. And the most truthful, honest thing that is happening is there is this big consciousness and this sense of beingness. And they're totally in love with each other. They're totally merged into each other. And this is the most honest, true thing there is. Everything else is not truth. It's got relative truth, but it's not truth. Yeah, that was the last little bit that was to finish. Do you have anything to say or comment on that?
That's a good inquiry for me, I think, because it can, some of those things you mentioned about if someone leaves me or if someone doesn't answer a call, that can trigger different things in me. Um, all the things you said, I think. So yeah. But then yeah, exactly as like you said, what there really is this, I need to remember that all really, to strip everything else away, let everything else go, and then all that's left is this big consciousness and beingness.
I'm really happy that you're listening to Roger and really taking seriously what he's saying. And yeah, I love his teachings.
I got really obsessed with his teachings for a long time. It's
Nice.
not, I didn't think that's how my brain worked. So like practical and
Yeah,
framework. It really helped a abstract, crazy brain like mine to have a tight
yeah,
framework like that for a period.
yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I found that very helpful too. Nice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Okay, I just have to go to the toilet and then Anka will come to you. Okay, I'm back yet. Anka, you can unmute yourself. Hey, Anka.
Hi. Um, like I feel this, I don't know, maybe it's not a feeling, but I can notice this big emptiness which is kind of merging with everything. I mean, you were saying it so beautifully already, but like, so it is, yeah, it's like this merging with everything. And what I'd noticed is like there've been some like family things where I felt like this energy was so dense, and it feels also, that feels like there's almost like there's no distance between me and that. Like it's like I also merge into that. And yeah, I don't know what exactly my question is, but something like I had the thought like maybe I just want to stay away from that energy, but then is it like with everything, part of it just being with it? Or like how do you deal with these heavy energies, basically?
Yeah. Do you mean heavy energies from like outside? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
what
like
is
from
inside or
people.
outside? Yeah, from
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I mean, it's not like I'm me laying alone in my bed and have this energy. That's another thing. It's like where I feel like I'm inviting it because that's what is.
Yeah.
But when it's like people, where I can also walk away, for example, like, I mean, I don't know if I'm a chooser, but apart from that, like, how do you deal with this energy which comes from outside?
Yeah.
Seemingly outside, of course. Yeah.
It's intense. Because what happens after you have these big energetic shifts is that everything becomes energetic. So it's hard to remember the way things were because in a way they never existed, so it never was different to what it is now. But when you're identified, everything is going through a filter of the mind. So your energies are kind of owned by you, so they're a proportionate size, and then also you're using your mind to distract from it. So you're using your mind to think about things, to hold it, to own it, to avoid it. So the energies are like a proportionate size. And that sounds weird when I say that, but then when you have these energetic awakenings, the energies aren't contained anymore. So that means that like energy becomes huge. So when you interact with people, so even when you have your own energetic release, it's different to when you released them before. That when you interact with people, you experience their energies as your own. So if you are interacting with someone that is like furiously angry, you might not necessarily feel furiously angry, but you'll feel a very condensed energy. So you might not necessarily be able to name it because it's different to what you've known for many years, but you'll feel a very condensed energy. And then it's like, whose energy is it? Because it's not Anchor's energy. You most probably realize that this isn't Anchor's, but then like who are you? You're not Anchor either. So it's your energy as life. And that means that Anchor isn't holding the energy inside the body. The other person isn't holding the energy inside the body because it's coming out. Well, they are seemingly, but it's coming out of them. But it means that the energy is everywhere. So you get this massive bombardment of energies from other people, seemingly. Like, so it's like if somebody is deeply suffering and they're in front of you, it's like this very intense energy that can come over you. And it's not a mental thing. It's like this energy that, like, you know, when you put color in water and it's like, and then the whole water becomes pink. It's like that when you interact with people. And that's why I was saying in the beginning, I don't know if you heard this, like when you let go of the sense of self, you don't have a solid sense of self. So whoever you interact with, you become them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
You don't have a
thing,
solid anchor. Like, so before you were always trying to maintain anchor. So you went into these situations and there was some form of defense. There's no defense left now. So, I mean, this is the intense part. So what has to happen when you do this, or what you might begin to experiment with, is it's good to, if you can, when you realize it's intense, to move away from it, to come back to it. Like, so you can't move away from your family's energies at the moment because you're in this grief process with them. And so you like moving away and coming back to it. So it's, you know, like get out of that energy and then come back to it, you know, if you can. So you know, like I would excuse myself if something's really intense and go to the toilet and just like, and then come back out. So this kind of, you look a little bit like you might have ADHD. You're like in, out, in, out. But you're kind of, so you're moving your energy field from it. And then the next thing that you can begin to play with is actually, when that's happening, in your imagination, registering the outline of Anka's body. I know that sounds like a weird thing to do. What you can do is you can just chant I am and put the attention in the heart, or you can kind of feel the edges of her skin. And this might help with the energy. But in the end, what has to happen is absolute surrender to it so it can just pass through. But these techniques that I've given might help because they're intense. It's like, especially when you first begin to realize that once you begin to let go of your sense of self, you become everyone else. And first it's like,
Yeah.
So you can try these two different exercises of registering the outline of your body, of moving in and out of it. But in the end, the key is this absolute surrender, no resistance. So it can just disappear into that nothingness and nothing attaches. The other thing that I have read recently, which I'm investigating, is there a part of you that wants to know their energy? So is there a desire arising in your body that wants to know their energy? And that's something I just read recently from another teacher, and I just thought I would explore that in myself, but I don't know the results of that exploration. Like sometimes we want to know what other people feel, or we want to know what's happening, but that's just another exploration. But it is intense. Everything becomes energetic after the shift. Everything. And
Well,
including the
kind of
others.
also another part of the question is also, okay, ultimately there is no choice, of course, but there is a seeming choice, like for example, going to the toilet, you know,
Yeah.
like moving away from it. So, and because it's okay, now it's manifested in through my family, but it's also the world, you know, the suffering of the world, you know. So is it like sometimes I can move away from it? For example, I don't live in the city, you know, I live in the countryside. It's very peaceful. So would it ultimately be important, quote unquote, important, to be in the middle of suffering and be able to be there? Because I feel like sometimes I avoid this intense energy with my family. Like I go away, you know, because I don't want to go in it. But I also avoid suffering in the world if I don't listen to the news, or, you know. Yeah, this is the kind of question which is kind of part of it.
Yeah.
Because yes, that I am becoming everything, but is there also a seeming choice of what I become? You know, do I look at the tree or do I look at the news? I don't know how to say it. It's very hard to explain.
Yeah, no, I understand. And most probably what you'll move towards, if you move towards what you wanted in that moment, is the less suffering.
Yeah.
So the tree or the nature or humans with less suffering. But the problem is if you begin to get into that mentality, it will become seeking.
Yeah.
You know, so if you begin to think like that, it will become seeking. Because you won't be able to do it, because you're like so me and I can't say his name, my partner, were reading something recently, or he told me, and he was like, yeah, these yogis begin to be able to perceive people's energies for 20 kilometers. And he told me that, and I was like, my God, 20 kilometers. Like I thought it was 8 meters. And so when he told me that, I was like, you can't, I mean, imagine how, like if it got bigger, that field to perceive energies. So that's the difficulty. So naturally in the moment, if there's somebody deeply in suffering in front of you, it's kind of like the opposite to what people prior to awakening would think. You'll most probably naturally move away. There will be a little bit of compassion. Well, there'll be compassion towards them, but there'll be a little time spent. But then there'll be a natural movement away. But you can't get into the mentality of it, otherwise it will become seeking. It is absolute acceptance. You have to. There has to be absolute acceptance of it, and it's quite shocking when you begin to realize that if you lose your boundary, you become everything. You're like, oh,
yeah,
it's painful.
Actually, it's true. I mean, in the end, there is no avoidance possible anyway.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain avoidance. Like, okay, I don't want to go into this discussion. I go away. That yes, but
the other way around is also orgasmic. So when you meet other people that aren't suffering, that can be really orgasmic. So, you get like and then also like the tree and the nature and the animals, it's like an ecstasy of life seeing itself. So you get all the different flavors, like everything. It's
yeah, I guess it's just everything.
Yeah, it's
just becoming everything, the whole thing.
Yeah, and not allowing that story to get in about the energies. About I've got to avoid people's energies, because I can feel it in myself sometimes. If I'm in a lot of like, in difficult energies, there can be the impulse to move away, or to not move away, but to like, it's almost like checking what's around you. Like looking, okay, where can I go and sit now, and I just noticed that it's not a good mentality to get into. It's like total embracing.
Yeah, I guess it's both. No? It's not avoiding, but also not avoiding.
Yeah, so not denying your body if it wants to go somewhere, but just not getting into too much thinking about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Or imagining it in any way. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anka. Yeah, there's a little part that I think in this energy that, or in maybe a lot of energies of teachers, is that part of the teaching is partly to be with people that are waking up, because it's so blissful to recognize. It's such a beautiful thing when you're with someone, or when you're in that space where people begin to recognize themselves, because you are all energies in the end. So it's a really beautiful experience. Okay, I think we've got some written questions. So this is from Sebastian. How can the subject realize itself if there is nothing outside of it? How can one distinguish subtle ideas of consciousness from consciousness itself? The thing is, Sebastian, is when you're in that mentality of distinguishing ideas of consciousness, or you're asking those types of questions, then there is already some form of separation. So when one is at home, or when there is a resting in what you are, there is this being at home. So there would not be a question of, is there the possibility that there is subtle ideas arising? It's just deep resting in self, as yourself. So there could be an investigation of who or what is asking those questions. This is from Robin. Was it your journey, is it everyone's journeys, that in the end, outer teachers are dropped away so enlightenment within can come forth and be expressed? So Robin, there was no outer teacher. So it's not that you have to drop the outer teacher, like stop seeing them or stop appreciating them or purposely drop them. It's the recognition that there was no outer teacher. Who is this inner and outer? Who is this outer teacher? Is there anything that is outer to you? It's actually nice, this bit that I was reading yesterday. I by accidentally went live yesterday. I was trying to record a video for YouTube and I by accidentally pressed to go live. Some of you might have seen it. And I was reading this paragraph and I kept misreading it, so I had to reread it like 5 times. And I thought I was stopping the video recording and starting again, but I was just stopping or pausing the stream and then going on. So you might have watched me read this paragraph like 4 or 5 times. And basically in this paragraph, what Nisargadatta Maharaj was saying was that we mistake the inner for the outer world and the outer for the inner world. So we take the inner world to be that inner person, the one that thinks, the one that says, I need to wake up, the one that is focused on enlightenment, the one that wants to arrive somewhere. So we take that as the inner world, and we think it's private to the outside world. It's only private to the outside people that are only focused on thoughts. It's not private to the ones that are not lost in thoughts anymore. But we think it's our private world, and that the outside world cannot hear our private world. But that isn't the inner world. That is actually the outer world. The inner world is the pure consciousness of what you are. It's a live presence. So if you imagine a screen, that is the pure consciousness and the beingness, the alive presence. And then on that screen is projected a you that is thinking certain thoughts. And then in the same film, so it's all the outer world, and it's all, you could say, the person. And then in that, there is also projected this apparent outside world where things happen. But that also is part of the character. So whatever you see in the outside world is only that to make the character something. So if you see trees, as opposed your character is standing in front of trees, the trees are only there to make the character something. If you see an angry person outside, the angry person is only there to make you someone that isn't angry, for example. So the inner and outer world are the same thing, but there is no inner world. They're not different from each other, they're the same thing. And the true inner world is that big consciousness. It's confusing to say, I think Nisargadatta says it so much better, but unless I can just spontaneously open to where that is. I think it was chapter 51. Oh yeah, here, I got it. There is only one mistake you are making. You take the inner for the outer and the outer for the inner. What is in you, you take to be outside you, and what is outside, you take to be in you. The mind and feelings are external, but you take them to be intimate. You believe the world to be objective, while it's entirely a projection of your psyche. This is the basic confusion, and no new explosion will set it right. Yeah. Okay, Sanya Lee. Is authenticity beingness because there is no separate character? Authenticity is resting as what you are and letting that speak rather than the imagination of yourself, and the imagination of yourself getting something through time or avoiding something through time. So the authenticity is letting this moment dance, letting this moment sing, letting this moment speak without a second. So it's pure aliveness. It's aliveness speaking, aliveness doing, presence doing, rather than you doing. And thanks, Vera, for saying you cannot hear the questioner on YouTube. Yeah, I also had the videos up top, so I couldn't see any new messages coming in. But thanks to my partner who came and told me. Oh, there's more questions in chat. Michael S. Hi Lisa, is there still the feeling of free will being a chooser, but you just know it's not you choosing using the free will, just the body-mind complex operating with the free will feeling? Or has the feeling of free will been a decision maker completely dropped away? There is the feeling of free will, so it doesn't feel like it's like, oof, oof. It feels like everything is spontaneously appearing from me. So it feels very free, but not me as Lisa, me as the creator, but it's spontaneously created from that. It's not like a pre-planned. So free will is appearing spontaneously. But you see, free will comes with the idea of like, I have free will through time. So it's like a contradiction, because if you're just acting spontaneously, is there any free will? And whose free will is it? Free will is more like, okay, I've taken in all the ideas from the environment. I've taken in what could and couldn't happen, and I'm now choosing appropriately to act. Like, so free will is a mental thing. In the moment, is there ever any free will? But it feels like free will because it's me creating, me as that spontaneous beingness, life force, consciousness. And that is what gets confused, is that everything feels like your creation, your free will as that, but it gets confused because the person owns it and thinks, I have free will, and then it makes it a mental thing through time that I'm choosing. Lisa, the character, still has the ability to contemplate choices, like, should I do this or shouldn't I do that? Or what is better for painting the walls? Is it this paint or that paint or whatever we're doing? We just renovated our house, so there can be the appearance of choice. So we appeared to try to do more like eco-renovation. So that's an appearance of choice, but it's only an appearance through time. And the way that the appearance works is that you contemplate things. You look at different woods and which country they're bought from. And if you're doing eco, then you want the wood to come from somewhere closer rather than further away. But it's happening all spontaneously. So it's not that the character doesn't have the appearance of choice, the appearance of contemplation about what is the better option. But in every instant of that, it's coming from no place and no time. It's not coming from the character. The character is an appearance coming out of that freedom, which is spontaneously happening, even if it's contemplating through apparent time. It's coming from the now. And does the now have free will? Like, where does free will belong here, right here? It's an illusion, it's an idea. It's not that it appears or doesn't appear, it's that it's coming from the wordless. And is there free will in the wordless? No, free will is a concept that belongs in the human realm, in thought and imagination. You know, to the child, to like a 3-year-old, they have no concept of the idea of free will. Or a 2.5-year-old, they have no concept of the idea of free will. They're just doing, they're just being. And then we say to them, you shouldn't do that, that is bad to do that. And then they begin to get the impression that they are doing, that it's them. It doesn't mean we don't correct their behavior, but it's just not true that they chose to do it or didn't choose to do it. Yeah. Debbie. Sam, if you're getting overwhelmed using TRE, it could benefit to work with a facilitator. They help to co-regulate your nervous system and help you to access slowly in a way you can cope with. Much love. Yeah, thanks, Debbie. And thank you so much for the community, like reminding me of the human stuff. Sometimes I forget to acknowledge like these types of things, like yeah, and like I'm sorry to hear, Sam, that there was a relapse. I sometimes forget that part because there is a part that just sees it all so perfectly that couldn't have been any other way. But it's an important part to acknowledge. Yeah, that's painful and sad for that to happen. Leanne, hi Lisa. Where is this dream if awareness, consciousness is always here? I mean, that's such a profound question, isn't it? And something I cannot directly name for you. Where is this dream? Where is this dream? Did you ever manage to grab hold of it? Did you ever manage to rewind and go into the past, or fast forward and go into the future? Did you ever manage to contain it? To hold on to it, to get it, to grab it? This is from Travis. Where is the reference point to know where the dream is in relation to something else? Where are our dreams at night when we're sleeping? So the seeming reference point is the body-mind mechanism. But what is the body-mind mechanism? So I tend to phrase it like there has to be some form of identification with the body-mind mechanism. So you know, if you dream at night, you can't look through everything simultaneously. You need a reference point in which you're looking through. So it's seemingly that consciousness is looking through this body-mind mechanism. So that's the seeming reference point. But actually, when you really examine that, the consciousness is all places and no places, and there is no reference point. In the very moment, there is no reference point, but it appears as if you're looking through these body-mind mechanisms. So where is that big consciousness now? Is it coming through a body-mind mechanism in this moment? When you're looking at me, am I not the reflection of you? Is my lips not you, my nose not you, my skin not you, my hair not you, my seat not you, the wall behind me not you, the computer not you? So it's this invisibility that begins, and who is it that's looking? Where is this point of looking from? Such love, this emptiness, that is all coming from emptiness. It is all that emptiness. There's nothing looking here. There's only what is. Yeah, Travis, you can unmute yourself.
Thanks. I couldn't find the button to raise my hand. Um, I feel like that I have some kind of fear of freedom and liberation, and I feel like people create these conceptual comfort zones to manage the fear of, I mean, I'll speak for myself that I do, to avoid the uncomfortableness of freedom and liberation and waking up. And I'm wondering if you went through some kind of process of overcoming that fear when you began to um, awaken, or whatever you want to call it. Was it a process of that was difficult in some way of letting go and overcoming some kind of fear? And like, how did you do that?
Mm. In the end, it's the divine that does it all, so your whole waking up process is being done. It's never really you doing it. And everybody's path, these pathless paths, is so unique to you. It's so dependent on the way that you're set up. It's how the path will apparently present itself. It's being done. So with the fear, it was slowly through time becoming more and more comfortable sitting in the fear and the agitation. However, that's not the case when trauma is happening. So you can't sit your way out of trauma, you most probably just perpetuate it. So that's why I always recommend simultaneously doing trauma work, so that you can have a clear distinction when it's fear and when you're slipping into trauma, and then you have tools of how to work with trauma. But generally it was like getting into, like a hot bathtub. Although a hot bathtub's pleasurable and the fear isn't. But it's the same premise. It's like just getting more and more used to experiencing fear and not instantaneously running away from it. So say if in the evening time you begin to feel fear or loneliness or something, rather than going on the internet and browsing the internet or watching TV or listening to YouTube videos, like just trying to lay there and experience the fear, unless it turns into trauma. But to experience it and to be able to stay still with it rather than, acting out, eating, binging on TV stuff, drink. Like, how much can I contain it? Because when I work with a lot of people, one thing I notice is a lot of the time people come to me with lots of words. I'm not saying you did, you really didn't come with lots of words. And a lot of the time it's fear. And they're not even aware that they're like over speaking because they're afraid of silence. I don't just mean silence between me and them, I mean silence within themselves. Like they're afraid of silence, of it falling into silence. And I always try to give people the opportunity to drop into silence with me. So when somebody says something, it's just natural, I leave a pause to see, if we can just look at each other. And often what will happen is they'll carry on talking unless I reply or respond. But it's like noticing all of this, this unsafety that we feel in life. And some people have that unsafety more so than others. And just how much can we allow that in? And you don't have to be, what's that word, when you jump off the cliff, like kamikaze? Yeah, kamikaze. You don't have to be kamikaze about it and, take it all at once. It's like, okay, so I'm just feeling a little bit of fear now, so let's see if I can sit with that. And then if it gets more, maybe you go and get lost in the internet or something, or go to your usual habits. But just bit by bit, how can I let that in more?
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful, especially the, yeah, recognizing the difference between fear and trauma. And I think sometimes I get a little impatient. I've been practicing Buddhist for like 20 years, and I just sometimes feel like progress stagnates or kind of plateaus, and that not much is happening. But I also been working with plant medicine for about 7 years, and that's opened up, I feel like, my capacity to hold more and more, at least
Mm.
during those kind of ceremonies. But then I notice some kind of resistance to, but I think, yeah, like you said, it's an individual process that I'm not really controlling, and probably more patience often is what is required.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Mm. And changing things bit by bit, you know. So if like you notice fear coming up, and maybe like in the past it would be to get lost in Netflix or something. It's like, okay, so I can't sit in silence now. I can't just accept the fear, but could I say listen to satsang instead of doing that? Or could I read a book about, you know, a teacher or something? Is there other things that I can do? Or say drinking alcohol. Like, I'm not saying you drink alcohol, but if somebody drinks alcohol to try to deal with the fear or to try to avoid the fear, say, okay, so can I just try something else? Like,
Yeah, I feel like sitting in silence is something I love to do, and but I've also felt like my meditation practice almost feels like has been a way of to avoid, has been almost like a bypassing tool. Sometimes it feels like, because feel like I can rest in silence and sit all day and come back to the present, but sometimes it feels like by doing that, I'm avoiding something, or I'm avoiding confronting something like fear or different things.
do you have a lot of social anxiety or difficulty around people?
Um, I used to, not nearly, not even close to what I did, say 15, 20 years ago, which I would not have been able to do this, what I'm doing right now, talking with you in this situation. So maybe a little bit, but not very much anymore. But it used to be quite a thing.
That's really beautiful. You know, sometimes we don't give credit to these things that, you know, some people never manage to get over social anxiety and it destroys their life because they can't get over it. So the fact that that change has happened to you, I know like you were talking about patience, but it's also recognizing these
Mhm.
changes. I also notice that when I work with a lot of people, it's through the years I really see them radically change. But you know, they still had this big goal, so they're not really recognizing these subtleties. That's huge. You know, some people never get over that and then end up having to take or take alcohol a lot to deal with it, to deal with socializing, or become very hermit or agoraphobic, or take, you know, prescribed drugs. Can create chronic illness. I feel like these things only can truly change, like these psychological things can only truly, really change when there is like connection or touching or beginning to touch on the source. Because it's, you can do therapies on it and they can be really helpful. But to really begin to see that that character isn't you is when we really begin to disentangle from these thoughts and these behaviors and these ways of being.
I think that's why I've been really grateful for the plant medicine work that's allowed me to touch that in a much more direct and personal way than I had been with all those years of practice. To have at least those glimpses or experiences of that, I feel it's like been really helpful for my overall path.
Yeah, nice. It's not for everyone, plant medicine, but it can really radically change things for some people. To be able to hold that, the absolute uncontrollability of it. Mm. Yeah, thanks for your question, Travis.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we can end it now. So I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody on YouTube. If you want to stay around and just to say a hello, we can do that. So I just say goodbye to everyone on YouTube. Yeah, thank you everyone in YouTube. If you want to join these talks in the Zoom group so you can ask questions, you can find out how to do that on my website. There's normally a link below. I also have some spaces on the up and coming UK retreat. You can find out about that on my website. And if you like this video, please remember to like it and subscribe. This really is supportive to the channel. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. I really, really, really wish you everything. Not one or two or three things, but every God-blessed thing. Yeah. Bye.